Hej, Roger Hagelin här och Tony Sundell från Arrow. Varför är vi här idag?
Jo, vi är här idag för att tala om IBMs Storage User Group som firar 10-årsjubileum och där var det faktiskt mer än 200 deltagare.
Vi har klippt ihop delar av presentationen i lagringsutvecklingen från tejp till atomer.
Yes, och en av deltagarna och huvudtalare var faktiskt Barry White med över 27 års erfarenhet från IBM. Han är faktiskt en så kallad Master Inventor, vilket är rätt coolt att ha på plats.
For the last 10 years or so, IBM has been working with its user community across Europe, providing user group sessions, usually hosted at an IBM site, just makes things easier to organize, but run by the user communities. The idea of these events is to promote, obviously, new technology, new features that we have in the products. It's aimed at end users or potential end users. And this following video that you're about to watch was recorded earlier this year at a session that we had in Stockholm. The Stockholm events tend to run twice a year, so we have a kind of spring and an autumn event, and we'll cover off the latest and greatest features that we do. And in this, for example, this session, we actually spent some time talking about where's storage going, what's happening in the future, what interesting technologies are there, what old technologies are still there and are still viable. So these are the kind of example of sessions that we would have at such events. Hopefully we'll see you at one of these in the not too distant future. There's a website link on the IBM pages where you can go and see if there's a user group community around you, local to you. And we get worldwide experts coming in, traveling in from various parts of the organization, from block storage, file storage, all the way through to the backup and resiliency software functionality. So my name is Barry White, and this was a session that was recorded earlier this year.
If we look at the actual media and things that we've got tape down there. And the way to read this is, if you look at on-chip SRAM up here on the top right, latency of factor 1 and a density of factor 1. And then these are all relational to that. So DRAM is 10 times the latency, 100 times the density. So we all understand tape, hard drives, NAND that we've got for SSDs, storage class memory with 3D crosspoint, and then into some of these newer kind of interesting technologies. So NanoRAM, which is getting latency about the same as DRAM, density about the same as DRAM, but it's persistent. So this is basically RAM that is persistent. That's a really interesting technology. We've got MRAM, which is even better because it's persistent as well, and it's getting similar latency to what we get actually on the chip. Not quite the density, but it's still even higher density than DRAM. We actually use MRAM inside the flash core modules. We've used that to get rid of supercaps. We don't have supercaps in the flash core modules because we can store things persistently at the speed of RAM, more or less. So this technology, these are all technologies that are available today. These are all things that we can do. They're costly. Once you get down here, you're paying a lot for them. So the title says it all. It's not going away. I forget the statistic. It's something crazy like 70% of the cloud is tape. Because who wants to pay for pictures of your cats 10 years ago that you're storing out there? Google certainly doesn't really want to be paying much for it. They're going to keep it, and it might take you a little while. And you sit there and go, oh, network's really bad today. Now it might be spilling it off tape somewhere. So we've been working on Diamondback, an exabyte in a single library, based on the hyperscalers need. They're our biggest customer, if you like, for tape these days. So tape is most definitely not dead, and it's going to outlive the hard drive for sure. Speaking of which, they're not quite dead yet. Interesting numbers. I did a bit of research. Almost 100 exabytes of hard drives still sold last year. But that's 50% down year on year. So 82.5% near enough, nearline. That's what we'd expect. That's what people are buying, big archives, cold storage type solutions. And one I was really surprised at, 25% of the desktop PCs still ship with a hard drive last year. Who the hell's buying them? I thought pretty much everything was SSDs these days, and no. But you can see it. I mean, the definite like kind of downturn. 166 million units of hard drive sold, but it's definitely on the decline. I stick in the ground 5 years. 5 years, I think we'll have a crossover cost point that Flash, be it QLC or the new Penta LC, we can get cost compare. The crossover in terms of units sold was actually in 2020. So last year, 352 million units of SSDs, 166 million units of hard drives. So it's taken over. NanoRAM, so one of the other technologies. Nice thing about this, doesn't need battery backup. So it's basically, it's persistent, but it doesn't have to be kind of kept with a slow trickle charge type thing going through it. It can actually keep the technology, or keep the data faster and denser than DRAM, less energy. MRAM, start getting into strange kind of physics things here with spin transfer torque. Speed of DRAM, high fast writes, non-volatility of flash, and near unlimited endurance. So this is a really interesting technology, and I think once the cost of it gets to an interesting point, we might start seeing this as a RAM alternative. On talking of RAM, on DRAM side of things, IBM in 2019 said we've got down to less than 5 nanometers, or around about 5 nanometers for the DRAM, using indium gallium arsenide with these lovely things like, people have real fun with naming things here, metastable dip RAM. Yeah, sounds good. Anyway. But then 2021, we said, no, we've got it down to 2 nanometers now. So we're getting to the point where we're getting close to that kind of 1 nanometer point, which got me thinking, well, what about 1 nanometer? However, when you get to 1 nanometer, let's put it in perspective. The physical barrier here is basically the atom of silicon. An atom of silicon is 0.2 nanometers in diameter. So when you get to 1 nanometer, you've only got 5 atoms in your circuit. I'm sure we'll get down to subatomic, but hey, it starts to really put it in perspective of like, shit, okay, that's not much at all, is it? Do you trust this? Is this going to bit flip? Is this going to actually be? So I'm sure I'll be eating my words in a couple of years' time. We'll have found some way. Just as we did with this. So in 2012, we said, right, we've managed to store a single bit in 12 atoms. Okay, we've got down to 12 atoms. We can do that. We had this anti-ferromagnetic principle, less than 12. So going down to 8 atoms, it was too unstable. We couldn't find a way of keeping it stable. But then in 2017, we actually demonstrated 1 atom. And it's all about controlling the spin direction of the atom. It says whether it's a 1 or a 0. What could possibly go wrong? Yeah. However, I then did a bit more research and found, no, we can actually now do 2 bits per atom by controlling the spin of the electron and the spin of the atom itself. Again, I say, what could possibly go wrong? And this, apparently, they've managed to keep it stable for a short period of time, but the 2 spin directions can cause strange reactions with each other. So I think it's a few years off, but they've demonstrated it can be done. So, and this was really just, I wanted to sort of show that this kind of level of research is still going on. IBM's heavily involved in a lot of this. So we are looking at getting down to those kind of atomic levels. And then...
Visst är det helt otroligt, Roger, att man kan lagra 2 bits på en atom?
Ja, det är helt sjukt faktiskt.
Ja, det är det. Och IBM är faktiskt en ledande spelare i den här utvecklingen. Och vill du veta mer tycker jag verkligen att du ska gå med i IBMs Storage User Group.
Och hur man gör det, se nedan.